Lucas from iExplore here. I'm in Shinjuku on this cold, windy night doing some long exposure photography with my Ricoh GR3 on a tripod. So let's get into it.
iExplore.
So why do I think the GR3 is good for long exposures? Well, it's very simple. It has a built-in ND filter, which is very useful for this kind of photography. And it's very convenient. So let's set up a shot. I'm gonna, of course, turn it on. I do this kind of shooting on full manual. So I'm gonna go to manual, 100 ISO. And first I'm gonna try to get the longest exposure possible. So I'm gonna go 100 ISO, f16, and I'm gonna go in the menu and turn on that ND filter, which I believe, I forget, but I think it's a 2-stop ND filter. So it's really, really dark, and then I can go down to, however many seconds that turns out. Let's see, 10 seconds. Wow, that's quite long in this spot, which is really good. Now, some of you might be thinking, or even screaming at your screen saying, Lucas, no, don't use the camera on the, on the smallest aperture because it's always a little bit less sharp. That sucks. I get you, but we'll adjust it later. Maybe we'll go to a lower one, like a smaller, a bigger aperture, like f8 or something. So by the way, I should say that I did get the tripod for free from this company, FreeWild. It's very nice of them. I told them I may or may not use it in the video, but here we are. It does work for this kind of thing. So this is a free product, just to be transparent about promoting things. But yeah, it works really well. It's very light. It's very, great for a small camera like the GR. I haven't tried my big Nikon on it. I think it would be doable, but it's kind of well suited for this. It's meant to be a very small travel tripod, and I do like the carbon construction. It is indeed very light. Anyway, works great for what we're doing tonight. So now if these people finish crossing, the cars will come. Just to recap the settings, I'm on 10 seconds, f16, 100 ISO, infinity focus distance, just using I set the snap distance, the snap focus mode. I selected infinity. Pretty much everything is in focus from infinity to 1 meter on f16, so I don't have to worry about focusing at all. And here come the cars. We're gonna shoot right now, and we'll see what we get. Now, I wanted to go for the longest exposure possible, which is 10 seconds in this case with this setup, with that lovely ND filter that's built in. The reason I'm doing that is because this is the natural instinct when you're doing these long exposures. You want to go for the longest possible exposure. You think the longer the better. But actually, this is a great, a spot where you can really illustrate the point that sometimes it's not longer is better. Sometimes a shorter exposure looks you better. But I'm going to take a few more 10-second ones here just to really see what I get and drive that point home. This is a spot that we do on the Tokyo by Night photography workshop, by the way. So those of you who've taken that workshop have been here and seen this spot and probably learned this exact technique live. Let's see here. Okay, no more cars, so let's review those. And sure enough, as I thought, if we do exposure too long, the light trails are very faint. So actually, I'm going to slow things down. So I did want to say that in general, the ND filter is great for long exposures in the GR, but I think for this shot, we're not going to need it. So I'm going to turn it off. I know I should probably demonstrate its usefulness in some other spot, but I think you get the point. It is just nice to have that extra couple of stops of darkness for long exposures. But for this shot, we're actually going to go down now to about 1 second. Okay, and that means I can even go down to f11. And then I'm going to shoot one now with the people crossing. It's not exactly what I came here for, but it does look cool. They're going to leave this nice hazy kind of effect. Right, there we go. These kind of ghostly people. And then we'll get back to the cars in just a moment. So the thing I want to really illustrate here, this idea that you want to do a shorter exposure, but how short? And the way I think about it is, in this scene, the way I have it framed up, and I haven't changed my framing at all, right? I see whatever, you see the photos on the screen, so you can see what I have framed. I have this crossing and then the buildings. And I want to think about, how long does it take one of these cars to traverse that distance? And if you watch, it's about 1 second. So there's no real benefit of having a longer exposure because unless there's cars right behind each other, you're not really going to get a lot of cars. You're going to get a lot of empty spots where there's nothing there. Instead, I want to shoot for 1 second, and during that 1 second, the back of the car is in frame. For the entirety of my exposure, I'm sucking in the light of the car, but once the car is gone, I'm not exposing just nothingness there. And that usually results in very nice, vivid light trails. So let's see here. I'm still shooting for now because there's still a lot of cars. You guys are already seeing these photos on the screen, right? Okay, but let's go back through them. And there we go, very nice. Much more vivid light trails. Sometimes even being able to see some of the car, right? So let me shoot a few more, but I'm also gonna try an even slower or faster shutter, I should say. I'm gonna go down to a half second, and then I need to go to f8. All right, so now I'm on a half second for my next attempt, but since the people are crossing, I might as well shoot them on a half second. Yeah, these are kind of cool. We'll try the cars one more time. There's also a luck factor involved. You do need to get a really, good car, a car with good tail lights, right? And then I'm timing it so that the back of the car is entering the frame when I'm shooting the photo. And by the way, little side kind of like small tip, I'm not looking at the screen here to time it. I'm just looking into reality because there is a slight lag from, the light coming in, it appearing, on the screen, and then me pushing the button. Instead, I'm looking just for real where the car is, and when the car is out there in the right spot, like right now, I shoot the photo, right? And now, and you see I just go one after the other, one car at a time, but each car I'm getting just enough exposure to capture that car fully, right? And these are pretty cool. And you can actually see some of the car in these, so it's this kind of textured, more vivid shot than just the longer exposure. I missed a really good one there because the other shot was still finishing. Okay, I'm liking these, but I'm gonna change my my framing a little bit. This tripod does have a nice ball head, so I'm gonna kind of do a slightly angled composition just to make it a little more dynamic. Yeah, but I realized I angled the wrong way because I want the lines to be more angled, but if I turn the camera that way, then in that last photo, the light trail of the car is like parallel to the edge of the frame. I don't like that framing. I much prefer the other way, so we're gonna have to wait for the next round, but I prefer the other direction so that the diagonal lines are rising more up and to the right in the frame. And this kind of angled composition for a scene like this, I find is much more dynamic, and it works great for this because it helps show the feeling of motion. So I reframed it, and now we're gonna try it one more time with the angle going the other way. Oh, here we have a truck. One of these trucks, these are usually pretty cool. Don't want to do it too soon, otherwise it covers like the whole scene. In this kind of shooting, you end up shooting a lot, just again and again and again, and then you pick it out later what the best one is. It's very hard to predict what it's going to look like just from the cars approaching. Okay, that should be a good one. Yeah, nice. And so now I have my lines, the light trails going diagonally from the bottom left up towards the upper right. Not exactly, but more or less. And to me, this kind of angled composition, it sort of helps tell the story of what I'm actually showing here, because what I'm capturing is the dynamic nature of the city in motion, the cars are moving, right? And by doing an angled composition, I feel like that makes the camera feel dynamic too. It sort of gives the impression that the camera is also moving, right? Like if the camera was totally like just flying through the air, if you're flying, you kind of bank to the right? Or even like on a motorcycle or a bicycle, when you turn right, you take a bank. So it feels like the camera's banking, and it gives the impression that the camera's moving too. So the scene is moving, the camera's moving, and I like that kind of, is it a juxtaposition or like a confluence of just this dynamism of the city? So to me, the composition, whether it's level or angled or whatever, should always help convey something, right? So I call this narrative composition, where the composition isn't just to show off your ability to frame a photo up with some clever way. You're actually using the composition to help tell the story or convey the feeling or the mood of the image. Beautiful. So I'm happy with these shots. I want to try one more thing because, I have this tripod, which, like I said, is a very nifty tripod. And I did say there's the ND filter, which I know I didn't really use for this shot, but I did want to point out that it's in there and it is useful for this kind of thing. But actually, the GR has a really good stabilizer. So I want to try my luck, just for the sake of argument. Like if I didn't have the tripod with me, could I do this by hand, right? So let's try that. I'm going to lock my elbows here, and we're going to do some half-second shots. Let's see. Okay, I'm doing the angle too. And usually when I do this, when I'm doing it by hand, I take a few at a time. So I'm just holding the button down. And the camera is moving a bit, but I'm going to see how well it stabilizes. We'll see. Okay. All right, let's review these a little bit. Wow. These are really impressively tack sharp for by hand. So, yeah, okay, I'm impressed. Let me take a few more because there's still some traffic. Might as well. But yeah, I mean, I've done this before. I've definitely tried my luck with, with the GR on a very slow shutter speed, like a half second here, to do long exposures. But it always impresses me. I don't know how good or not good the stabilization actually is. I don't know what kind of black voodoo magic GR or Ricoh put into this camera. I think it actually has mostly to do with the fact that the camera's so small, and this how do I say, like arc is not so big. So if the lens was longer, if I move it a little bit, it actually turns into quite a large motion. But because this lens is so short that this slight movement is it's very slight. So the camera can stabilize it very well. And the results just are awesome. So, I do like this tripod, but get rid of this thing, you can really do it without. But anyway, either way, if I was doing a 10-second exposure, I definitely need the tripod. All right, guys, so there you have it. Some fun techniques for using the Ricoh GR for long exposures. I hope I gave you guys some ideas and a little bit better understanding of what you should be trying to set in terms of the time, right? It's not always more time is better. Sometimes actually less time is better. You want to kind of think about what actually is happening in front of you. There are, some scenes where more time would work, but in this case, 1 second or half second or so is the sweet spot for me to get the most interesting and dynamic results. All right, so thanks for watching this quick video. I'll catch you guys in the next one, and remember always, challenge your eye. Oh, you're still here. Well, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end of the video. That really helps us out, with the algorithm. But since you're here, I want to remind you guys the different ways you can support this channel, the best one being coming to Tokyo or Kyoto and taking a workshop with us. Or me or one of the other guys on the team. That's a huge help. Of course, we have some other things that we offer. For example, you can purchase a map of Tokyo photo spots. Currently, there are over 500 locations on the map, useful for planning your trip in Tokyo or exploring the city. Also, I do have a book out called Tokyo Unseen, so please check that out. And I do sell prints, so if you'd like one of my photos as a print, check that out as well. But last but not least, there is Patreon. Those of you who support us on Patreon, we're extremely grateful, and anybody who's thinking about it, we'd really appreciate that. That is another way to get access to the photo spot map. All right. And last little tiny thing, there are referral links to all the gear and stuff that we use in the videos, so just clicking on those links helps us out as well. And of course, all the other things I mentioned are also linked in the description. All right, so thank you guys so much for watching to the end, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.